Hi, everybody, and welcome to Occupy's continuing conferences on electromagnetic radiation and microwave dangers. Today's agenda date is 5/19/2016, and we're delighted to have Katie Singer, who is the author of An Electronic Silent Spring, whose website is www.electronicsilentspring.com. We'll interview Sharon Noble. Sharon has researched smart meter fires for nearly 5 years. She has also researched Wi-Fi in schools. Her websites are www.stopsmartmetersbc.com and www.citizensforsafetechnology.org. Katie will interview Sharon about these two issues. So, what a bit of a note, Occupy EMF Harm conferences is sponsored by the Occupy Wall Street movement, thanks to their assistance for helping to bring this issue into public awareness. And the breaking news is that our Left Forum conference and panel, Drunk on Wireless, and our workshop, Electromagnetic Pollution Solutions, will be at the Left Forum on this Sunday, from 10 o'clock to, I guess it's 2 o'clock. And we hope you can come by or listen to those conferences sometime and listen to the videos, see the videos, and listen to the whole event that we will have there at the Left Forum. We also have a table in the Great Hall filled with literature and sign-up lists, so hopefully we'll have a lot more people getting educated and signing up for different facets of our evolving problems. So I'm going to give the floor over to Katie Singer. Welcome, Katie. How are you today?
Hi, Sandy. Thank you for having me today. Thanks to everyone at Occupy who helps to put these shows together. I want to clarify that I am interviewing Sharon Noble today, and we realize that she has way too much to say about smart meters and Wi-Fi in the schools, so we're going to do 2 shows, and today we're just going to focus on smart meters. We'll do a show about Wi-Fi in the schools sometime in later June. And I need to say that I have been researching this stuff for years, and I am still learning something brand new, often twice a day, about smart meters. It seems very basic what I continue to learn. Basically, a smart meter, it tracks the use of electricity, natural gas, or water. And we're going to focus on smart meters at the breaker box, smart meters that are used for tracking electricity. It gets confusing because smart meter with a capital S and a capital M, that's a trademarked industry name. But if you lowercase that and say a smart meter with no upper cases, that's the generic term that we're using for all new digital meters. Until, 10 years ago or so, we only had analog mechanical meters that tracked our use of various utilities, and then a meter reader would come by and read those analog signals once a month, and we'd get a bill. A smart meter, we're going to learn how smart meters are different, but they can track your use of a utility moment by moment, and they can identify, in the case of electricity, which appliances you're using, whether you're turning lights on in a bathroom. And then it's a two-way communication, so it's collecting information about your use, but also it's transmitting information about your use. And I'm going to ask Sharon to explain more of that. let me just say before we start talking with Sharon, as I understand, in the case of electricity, the burning question is, what are the benefits of smart meters? According to the utilities, they save money, and 2, they save energy. And their idea is that, which as I understand is quite true, when you deliver electricity in a smooth current, an even flow of electrical current, that is more energy efficient, and so you save energy. If you have a power surge where you're using tons of electricity during the day when businesses are operating, and then you have a decreased surge during evenings and weekends, that is less efficient. You use more electricity that way. The utilities' idea has been that if our electricity gets tracked and they can identify when exactly a household is using electricity, well, then they could charge for time of use. So they could charge more for a household using electricity during the day than they would charge for evening or weekend use. I'm going to ask Sharon again about this, but those are the benefits according to the utilities. So now let me tell you about Sharon. Sharon Noble is American-born. She's lived in Canada since 1969. She worked as an officer for a major insurance company in the underwriting department, and she's now retired. She started fighting cell towers and Wi-Fi in 2004. She lives in British Columbia. She started StopSmartMetersBC.com in 2010. And I'm just learning tremendously from her. I think she has tracked more about smart meter fires than anyone. And I want to say welcome, Sharon. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, Katie.
So I'd like to start with the question, where have smart meters been installed and where have they not been installed?
This is a conundrum, Katie, for me to answer because I'm not really sure. There are many places where they haven't reached the people yet. As far as I know, especially in the United States, there was a financial incentive put out by the federal government to encourage utility companies to begin the smart grid. Many states have either refused it or are still in the process. But this is happening all over the world. What is very confusing and seems more than just coincidental is that smart meters are being put into places like Australia and Asia. China has them. Across Africa, they're getting them. In South America, Central America, there isn't a place, it seems, where smart meters are not either being installed already or are in the planning process. And many people are asking why. We don't know why. It may be that there is some grand plan out there that we don't know about yet, but smart meters are everywhere. They're ubiquitous, Katie.
Okay. So my understanding is that a lot of them are being deployed in what's called a mesh network. Can you describe what a mesh network is?
Yes. It's a mesh grid is what the term is. And what this is a wireless smart meter. The vast majority of the smart meters that are being installed throughout the world are being done on a wireless basis because it's cheaper. Wired smart meters are available, and places like Italy are using only wired meters. Also, I believe Utah is using wired meters. Excuse me. But wireless meters are cheaper. They require very little additional infrastructure. These meters are being put on homes, and as you said before, they are two-way communicators. and they communicate with the homes in the local area network. It could be, for instance...
So if it's a mesh network, that means that the meter on one household communicates to meters within its neighborhood.
Yes. What is happening is that the meters all communicate within the meters in this local area network. And in British Columbia, each network is up to 1,000 meters. They operate by line of sight. And these signals are sent out back and forth as they work their way to and from the utility transporter or transmitter that is on the street. In British Columbia, we have things called collectors, Cisco collectors, that are along the streets. They have 6 transmitters in them, and they can send signals from the utility company to the homes and receive signals back from the homes. And the signals go from home.
What kind of signals would they be sending? Like, what kind of information would they be sending?
For instance, they can send information to turn the power down on homes. One of the benefits to the utility companies is that there is a remote disconnect switch in each smart meter, at least in British Columbia, and I believe every meter that I've looked at has a remote disconnect switch. And the utility company is able to turn power out or turn it down. They say that if there is a great need for power someplace else, one of the benefits of these grids is that they can shift it from your grid to another grid by turning power.
So like if I'm in my house, I'm I'm using a refrigerator and maybe a medical device, and maybe someone's got a computer running, and power is turned down, how would that household be affected?
There are many ways it can be affected, I guess, depending upon if the power is turned down or if it is specifically turned off. There is these smart meters, let me just digress a minute to explain. These smart meters have 2 transmitters in them. One transmitter operates in the 900 megahertz range. This is the one that communicates to other homes and to the utility company. The second transmitter operates at the 2.4 gigahertz range, and it is called a Zigbee chip. This type of chip that is in the smart meter is designed, and the purpose of it is to communicate with your appliances in your home. And new appliances these days, where you see smart on the outside, refrigerators, which are being advertised widely, stoves, eventually just about every electrical appliance is expected to have another Zigbee chip in it. And it will be communicating usage all day long through our houses wirelessly to the smart meter. And via this Zigbee chip, the hydro or utility company can turn an isolated device off. There was an instance in Ontario that was reported where someone had a brand new air conditioner that had a chip in it, and during a hot heat spell that was very, very hot, and this person was living in an apartment building, the air conditioner was turned off. She didn't know what had happened. She thought her brand new air conditioner was faulty, but she later discovered that her chip had just been turned off. So this is the sort of thing that is part of the design in this program, where there will be and can be external control over the power in your home. In addition to getting the data that will be sending back to the meter and then on to the utility company through other people's homes, they can signal back to the home, reducing the power that is being used in the home at that time.
Okay, so you've begun to outline some of the problems with smart meters from the ratepayer's perspective. The list I have of 5 major problems includes, number 1, their cost. Number 2, smart meters cause fires. 3, they present a major cybersecurity risk for the entire grid and for individual homes. 4, they present privacy breaches. and 5, they harm health. I'd like to go over each of these, and let's just start with cost. So the utilities claim that they save money. What is your perspective on that?
I haven't seen this happen anywhere, and I've read quite a few financial reports from various companies, and there have been Auditor General reports from Ontario and Australia in which their financial reports that extend over a number of years have concluded that there's absolutely no cost savings whatsoever. These things are extremely expensive. They are made cheaply and have to be replaced a lot. Basically what they are computers. And we all know that computers need to have a lot of upgrading and constant attention. And these things are made cheaply, so they have to be replaced. The life expectancy on these smart meters is generally given as between 5 and 7 years. There was a recent testimony before a congressional subcommittee, and an industry person admitted that the life expectancy was between 5 and 7 years, although most business cases listed as 20. This isn't happening. The costs are not there. The only cost that the utility companies can brag about and bring forward to people when they're trying to promote them is that they will be releasing the meter readers from their jobs. But in British Columbia, even though the meter readers were laid off, new IT people were hired at higher salaries to maintain the grid. This is a very, very expensive thing. Neither has energy ever been saved. This is another benefit that the utility companies tout. But the only way that energy can be saved is by getting people to change their habits. The utility companies are saying that the smart meters will allow people to see that if they turn a light on, they use electricity. People know this. People are already taking significant actions to reduce the amount of power that they're using. They're using their wiser, newer appliances. They're using better light bulbs. They're doing everything possible to reduce usage, and usage has decreased in most areas of the country. This is a false savings. One person reported, and I believe it was in the state of Arizona, that, and this was a friend of mine, her brother knew that it was going to be extremely hot during the summer, had used his air conditioner for years, so he knew what the bill was likely to be. When he received a smart meter, his bill tripled in his first bill. So he got the brilliant idea that what he would do is turn them, and this was during time of use billing, higher rates were charged during the day at peak hours, and rates dropped during low usage hours overnight. This is commonly what utility companies are doing these days with the smart meter. So what he did is he didn't use his air conditioner during the day, but at midnight, when the rates went down, he jacked the power air conditioner on full blast until 7 in the morning when the rates increased again. His house was cold enough so that it remained cool during the day. When he got his next bill, his charges had gone down, but his energy had doubled in usage. So you're not saving energy either. The only way that the energy is going to be saved or costs are going to be reduced is through changing habits. And utility companies don't need to put these dangerous, invasive things in our home to get us to do that.
That would be pretty extraordinary if we spent all this money on changing our habits instead of on more cheap computers. Let's go on.
And in fact, if I may just add, Katie, if people want to look up the Ontario Auditor General's report on smart meters, they will see that after 7 or 8 years, the program is considered a boondoggle. The rates
what year
in
was
the
that
utility
report? The Ontario Auditor General's report.
The most recent one was for the year 2014.
Okay.
And the rates have continued to increase. In Ontario, the rates just increased again May 1st for the second time in the last 6 months. Nowhere are rates reducing. And what is really scary for long term and disturbing for many people is that what is happening is that the costs are going to be increasing because of this very, very expensive program. And people are going to be going off the grid to compensate. As people go off the grid, the rates are going to have to go up because of the fixed costs are going to have to be recovered, and more people will go off the grid. It's a death spiral for the utility companies. And eventually, the only people who will be left will be those who can't afford to go off the grid.
Mm-hmm. Let's go to fires. I don't know. This topic is so massive. Where do you think we should start?
Well, I'll just do a quick overview. It is a massive one, and we could do an entire program on it alone. The meters are, as I said before, are plastic. They're made of combustible materials, where the analog was made of glass and metal. The meters have several design flaws. Electrical engineers have looked at them and said that they are fire hazards. And in fact, there was a major company that does UL certification in the U.S. that recently was touting a UL certification standard, and it admitted that the smart meters had such design flaws that the utility companies and the meter manufacturers were concerned about them. They have lithium, some of them, for instance, the Itron has a lithium battery in it that can explode when heated or moistened. There have been fires all over the place with every brand of meter, and no one seems to be tracking them. In my experience in British Columbia, the reports are very, very generic. If a smart meter fire occurs, it either is listed as being undetermined because the meter burns up in the fire because it's combustible, or else the utility company is taking it from the scene of the fire, and the fire inspector has nothing to inspect.
Let me slow that one down. So in the event of a fire, then my understanding is that the utility is promptly called by the fire department so that the power gets turned off. And
correct.
Because you don't want electricity running during a fire. And so then that means the utility now knows there's a fire at, a certain address. A fire is considered a crime scene until the fire inspector inspects the scene and inspects the scene. And as I understand, that has to happen within 24 hours. Is that true?
That's the normal scene, yes. Yes.
Okay. And then what you're saying is that once the fire inspector arrives, in the event that a smart meter did cause the fire, what firefighters are reporting or fire inspectors are reporting, I'm not sure what the answer is there, but the smart meter won't be there, either because it has blown up or because perhaps it has been removed by the utility, which would be illegal. And
it is illegal.
Okay, and then what you're saying is that the fire inspector is saying the cause is undetermined or the cause is electrical, in which case, as I understand, then an electrical inspector would be required to inspect the scene. But then what happens?
You're talking about what is supposed to happen. What is supposed to happen is the fire department calls hydro to turn off the utility to turn off the electricity, and the electricity is supposed to be turned off at the power pole, because if they turn it off at the meter, the lines from the pole are still live. So they're supposed to be turning it off at the pole and leaving the meter alone. But what's happening in many instances, the utility company, in British Columbia, in Quebec, in California, in many places, the meter is being taken from the scene of the fire. What is ideally supposed to happen is that meter is supposed to stay there. This fire inspector is supposed to come and inspect the fire as soon as possible. If it's electrical, he's supposed to advise the electrical inspector who comes and makes a determination. But this isn't happening. What is happening is that in many instances, by the time the fire inspector gets there, the meter is either burned and destroyed or it's been removed. Also, in many instances, the electrical inspector is not being called. I have many instances in the fires that I've investigated where the electrical inspector has never been advised that there's been an electrical fire. And when the fire department and the fire inspector makes their report, if the meter is gone, if it's burned, they can only report that it's undetermined, because without the evidence being there for them to look at, they cannot make a full report. That's the rule, at least in British Columbia. And so even if they believe it's a smart meter fire, there are no codes for smart meters. I have yet to find a jurisdiction where there is anything other than a general category for electrical fires. This is something that is not being investigated thoroughly. In places like Quebec, the firemen wrote a long article asking for the fire marshal to force the utility companies to leave the meters there. They were complaining because it was happening so often. I've received anonymous telephone calls from firemen, from fire chiefs, and from fire inspectors saying that their job is being frustrated because of the fact that they cannot get the meters. And they believe that many of the fires that they have not been able to investigate have been caused by the smart meters. And the utility company is not inspecting the meters either. They are immediately either destroying it or sending it to the manufacturer for replacement.
Let me say
a few
things here. One is that your website, StopSmartMetersBC.com, has a lot of information about smart meter fires, and EMFSafetyNetwork.org, which is run out of California, has a wonderful summary of evidence on smart meters. I'll say those again: StopSmartMetersBC.com and EMFSafetyNetwork.org. And okay, so if people want more information about this, let's go on to Sharon. Did you have one more thing that you wanted to say about fires, or can we move on to cybersecurity?
I would quickly like to suggest that people need to investigate this in their own jurisdiction. I'm only investigating fires in British Columbia. People are sending me information from other areas. For instance, a major fire in Florida where quite a few racehorses were killed that was caused by a smart meter. But people need to get in and do the same digging that I'm doing if they want to find out what's happening at their home, in their jurisdiction.
Thank you. Okay, let's move on to cybersecurity. In my kindergarten understanding, essentially a smart meter contains a cell phone, or it's a device very similar to a cell phone, that can receive and transmit data. In the same way that a cell phone can be hacked, a smart meter can be hacked. So that's the simple technology. And now go ahead and take us to a more advanced level.
Okay. Well, the big picture is, and this is what the United States government was doing for funding the grid, is that the grid is becoming all interconnected between all the areas of North America. There will be a grid connecting Canada to the United States in various sections, the eastern, the midwestern, and the western area, and then also across Canada and across the United States. We will all be interconnected. So if one area needs more electricity, it can be shifted easily. But this grid is largely wireless now, and it's becoming more so as the smart meters spread. This grid is extremely vulnerable, as the CIA, the Homeland Security, FBI, even CSIS in Canada now is warning that this grid is vulnerable to attacks or to accidents or to hacking. And as we all know, anything that's wireless is very, very susceptible to all of these things. And the people like James Woosley and General Petraeus have warned that viruses...
But both of them are former CIA directors.
Woosley was the director of the CIA, as was General Petraeus. They have warned for the last 5 or 6 years that they believe that the next attack on the United States will be through the infrastructure, and the electrical is the most vulnerable. And they've warned that once a virus gets put into the system, like the Stuxnet virus that the U.S. and Israel put into the Iranian system to prevent them from having a nuclear bomb, this could already be into the electrical grid and be sitting there waiting to be activated. And once this happens and the grid goes down, we will lose electrical power across North America, and it could be for many, many months on end. David Petraeus says that it's inevitable. And Woolsey said we will go back into the dark ages. When you think about everything that depends upon electricity, it's gasoline to run our cars, it's electricity to keep our food safe in our homes, it's to transport food, to grow food.
How do we need electricity for gasoline in our cars?
Because the electrical pumps at the stations run by electricity. The trucks that bring the gasoline to the stations run on fuel that will no longer be able to be pumped. We won't be able to travel. There will be chaos. And this is what the various agencies are warning. An expert like Timothy Schleckley, how I believe you would pronounce his name, has warned that really what we should be doing is having centralized grids within communities or within local areas rather than big national grids. Because when the national grids, international grids go down, we've got nothing to replace it. And this is a very, very scary thing, and it's more likely to happen because everything is now going to be connected through the Internet of Things. Everything is done wirelessly, and it's going to be depending upon the platform that is connected wirelessly through the Internet.
Okay, let us move on. Big wow, and let's move on to how the smart grid or how a smart meter can present a breach of privacy, let's just say for one individual household. And
it's really similar to this. I'm sorry?
Well, I'm thinking of a story you told me recently. This was before Obamacare, but a man was getting up in the middle of the night to pee several times, and he figured something was going on with his health, and so he got health insurance. Then he went to the doctor, who said, yep, you need prostate surgery, sir. He then contacted the health insurance company. The insurance company got hold of his smart meter data and found that he'd been turning on the bathroom light several times in the night from a few months before he went to the doctor. And so they said he had a pre-existing condition, and they refused to pay for his surgery. Now, that's before Obamacare, but that clued me in to the kind of privacy breach that can take place with a smart meter.
Yes, if you look at the many of the companies, the meter companies and utility companies' websites, you'll notice that they speak about how getting data is so important. They mention on occasion, but you have to dig for it, the fact that this data will be shared, can be shared with third parties. In some places, they are getting agreement from their customers to share this data by offering incentives like lower rates or, a gift or something like this. And people are naively believing that this is innocent and naive. The companies can sell this to marketing companies, to insurance companies. We don't know who. We will lose control over who they sell this to. But they'll make more money off selling our data than they will through selling electricity. Our data is a valuable resource, and many places are having to build huge data centers to accommodate all of this data that's being gathered and maintained. Especially once the Zigbee chip is activated in homes, the data that they'll be getting from the smart app appliances will be amazing. Even now, before people have smart appliances, the utilities can tell from the pattern of usage. When you leave, for instance, they can tell for instance, when the garage door opens. Or they can tell when you get up in the morning or when you go to bed at night because of the patterns of usage. Hackers can tell the same thing. A teenager sitting outside, just playing games with his computer, can tell when you've gone to bed, for instance. They can turn off your security system in your house. They can turn off and on your lights. Things that seem not to be that important are infringements upon our privacy. And they are happening.
And just the data centers that all this data requires so the data requires data centers, and they require massive amounts of energy because besides computers, they require air conditioning, which takes more energy. Let's go on to health, and it's interesting why health is at the end of this list, and maybe you could address that as well.
The reason I suggest that health should be at the end of everybody's list who is fighting smart meters is not because it's the least important. In fact, I believe it's the most important thing. But we all know that industry, the telecom companies, will fight tooth and nail on this issue until we have proof that is irrefutable, which I believe we already have, that radiation from microwave transmitters is harmful to people. We have proof galore that serious harm, permanent harm, is done to our bodies from microwave radiation, and that's what these smart meters are emitting. The smart meters have transmitters that similar to cell phones, and except they can't be turned off. They will be emitting signals, thousands and thousands of signals, all day and all night, back and forth from your home to the utility, to other people's homes.
Can you also talk about the hash, which is also called noise or harmonics on the 60 hertz wires? It's also called dirty power or dirty electricity.
Yes. The smart meter, there are two features, as Katie said. One is that it's operating wirelessly, and we're getting increases in the radiation, not only from our smart meters, but from our neighbors' smart meters, and also from the infrastructure that the utility companies will be putting up. More cell towers will be needed, more transmitters along roads and whatever. So we're increasing the radiation levels. But also, the smart meters are run by electricity. They have switch mode power supplies that convert the AC-DC that is coming into the meter. A small amount has to be converted to run the meter. And the smart meter puts a lot of dirty electricity on homes, high levels of harmonics that many people react to as much as they do from the radiation itself. These smart meters
You're saying from the radio frequency.
From the dirty electricity.
The dirty electricity is, I'll say, one kind of, it's a lower electromagnetic field, one kind of radiation, and then the radio frequency signals provide another kind of radiation. It's all on the radio frequency spectrum, but so there are different kinds that are going on. And one thing that I learned yesterday from talking with you is that a lot of people in areas where smart meters have not yet been deployed, if an analog meter stops working well, then the utility may put on a digital meter. It's no longer an analog mechanical meter, and so it won't be transmitting it won't be transmitting signals, but it will have a switch mode power supply that puts dirty electricity on the wires.
That's right. And many people believe that the digital meters are innocuous. Many utility companies are putting the digital meters on, telling people that analogs are no longer being made. That's not true. Analogs are still being made. Analogs, the full true analogs that have the dials, are still available. But many utility companies are going to the digital route. I'm not sure why. I suspect it's because they want to gradually introduce the idea of having a smart meter on your home, and this is kind of an incremental step along the way. But the digital meters do look different. They have numbers on them, so you can easily identify it if you look at it. And if you want to see exactly how these look, you can go on to another website that we have. It's called emrabc.ca, and we have lots of pictures there of analog meters, digital meters, and smart meters, so people can take a look and see exactly what they have on their home. But these digital meters do create a lot of dirty electricity, and
right.
they do have features on them that could cause fires. They don't have as many design flaws as smart meters, but they do have problems.
Thank you. So I've got another handful of questions. As I understand, the BC Utilities Commission, that's your regulatory commission, researched smart meters when the utility proposed installing them in your service areas. And the Utility Commission decided, you know what, we don't want these things. That was in 2008. And then
correct.
What happened?
Well, in 2008, an application was put forward for the very same program that we have today in British Columbia. And the BC Utilities Commission did its job, investigated it, and declined the application on two bases. One, that the benefits did not justify the costs, and two, that the technology was too new, untested, and could not be considered safe or efficient. So what our government did in its wisdom, they passed a law called the Clean Energy Act, in which they mandated. No, the provincial government.
Canadian. Oh,
the BC provincial government passed a law called the Clean Energy Act, and mandated that every home in British Columbia had to have a smart meter. And in this law, it said that the BC Utilities Commission had no authority for any oversight for any aspect of the smart meter program. So we were left here with no choice. We are fighting, trying to argue that the BC Utilities Commission does have a choice, especially towards safety. This is why I've gone the fire route, because I know that arguing health right now is not a winning argument, although it's a very, very worrisome concern. But fires are occurring. We know that these devices are dangerous and that they are defective. There's been legal testimony in Texas, for instance, stating that fires have occurred in Landis-Gear and Itron meters. And we are challenging the BC Utilities Commission to do its job and have these removed as being defective. This is the only way that the BC Utilities Commission in British Columbia can get involved. This was a very, very sneaky, aggressive move on the government's part to make sure that there was no way to have any oversight and no way to stop these meters. We have a class action lawsuit charging that our charter rights, which are similar to the constitutional rights in the U.S., are being infringed. We have a right that is guaranteed by the federal Charter of Rights that no government agency is allowed to do anything that an intelligent, rational individual would consider to be dangerous, to infringe upon our right to protect our homes and our families. And this is being directly challenged.
Do you have a sense of why your provincial government would pass a law saying that you cannot refuse a smart meter? Why would they do that?
Yes, the corporations, just as in the United States, the corporations here hold an awful lot of power. There's a lot of money in this. British Columbia paid more than any other place that I've been able to find in North America per meter. Take the business case divided by the number of meters. We paid $555 per meter. There are many places in the United States where it's less than $200 per meter on the same basis. And when we look at the companies, Itron, for instance, and the corporation that was hired to install the meters, which is another story into itself, there are many people who have been affiliated with the government, either past politicians or friends of politicians who are on the boards. So we believe it's a case of collusion. We believe it's a case of lobbying, political influence, and whatever, who is putting these things on homes, just as it is in the United States. These corporations are making billions and billions of dollars by putting these things on our homes, and there are no benefits to us.
All right. Let's talk about the insurance situation, underwriters and smart meters. And again, I'm going to say that your career was with an insurance company. You worked in an underwriting department, and underwriters assess the risk involved with a given product. So, for example, if my house is at risk of fire because I live in a wooded area or whatever, the underwriter would assess the risk there. What is the stand? What do we know about where insurance companies stand on this issue, on the smart meter issue?
The insurance companies are amazingly quiet, which makes me refused to pay for a smart meter fire. When people ask about when a fire occurs, the claim has been paid, and the individual has asked for a copy of the fire report, submitting the claim to either the utility company or to the meter company, and are being reimbursed. I don't believe the insurance company, the claims that they're paying. Yet I know of cases where the victims have had their premiums increased. If, in fact, the insurance company, for instance, Normans, are bogus, the assertions that they're making that these are green, that they will save energy, or that they will save costs, are in fact untrue. Call them on it. Ask them to prove it. And you show places like Ontario and California where the programs have been in place for years, and there's absolutely no justification, no evidence that this has been happening anyplace else. They need to confront the lies up front, that there's going to be any cost savings. And they need to bring the problems forward to the Utilities Commission. Inform the Utilities Commission about everything that I've told you today. Do your research. Check on the Internet. There are many good places to get information about the problems. And I would say educate people. It's important that people be educated. Most people don't know a thing about these smart meters or the problems. And the utility companies are installing it without any upfront information. They aren't telling people anything about what is happening and the problems. And people need to be informed and armed with education and information so that they can protect their homes.
Let's give people a roundup again of some of your favorite websites on the subject, and also you post a daily blog, and if people want that, what should they do? There are several what I consider to be excellent websites. You've named some of them. EMSSafetyNetwork.org is excellent. Of course, I'm biased.
Have people actually experienced their lights being turned on and off remotely, and the garage doors? Well, I mean, garage doors are RF, so let's put that one aside. But have people experienced their lights being turned on and off remotely from a smart meter that's been hacked into? Because that's pretty incredible if it happened.
There have been reports.
That before.
Yeah,
okay,
there have been reports of this having happened. I don't know of anything happening in British Columbia yet, but I do know that in the States it's happened. Yes, there are YouTubes and there are incidents on the Internet where this has happened.
Okay, but
Sharon,
nothing
Sharon, can you say what appliances have been remotely shut off that you have heard of?
There was an incident reported where a refrigerator was entered via a smart meter, and it was a smart refrigerator, and from the refrigerator, the people went to the computer and were able to download all sorts of private information, including bank account information. There have been incidents in the states where...
Wait. We got to slow that down. So the hacker went to the refrigerator was a smart refrigerator. It had a Zigbee chip. And then the hacker accessed the refrigerator and then traveled from the Zigbee chip in the computer to the family's computer system and then was able to access personal information at the computer. Is that correct?
Yes. And there are many incidents of what we call white hackers or white hat hackers. People who are hackers who've been hired to prove how vulnerable this entire setup is. And they've been able to prove that it's very easy to get into a home because it's all through the Internet. It's all like Wi-Fi. And they can go into the Internet through the smart meter and through the smart appliances.
And then the best places for more information about this would be at smartgridawareness.org and at stopsmartmetersbc.com?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. We have a lot of information about that sort of thing.
That's
Carl, did you have all right, let's see if we can take another question.
And I just have to say I agree with Carl. The one word that he had to say was wow. Karen Blumberg, you're unmuted. I think that's not your name.
Hi. Hi, can you hear me okay?
We hear you, yes. Please go ahead.
Oh, good. Besides going all propane and doing DC lighting, if you did want to go that route and you wanted to buy an appliance nowadays, DC appliances, but notwithstanding, an AC appliance, where could you go where you wouldn't have those nasty smart grid connections?
I'm going to suggest that you start with used appliances at if you have a Habitat for Humanity restore in your area, or just your basic classifieds. Sharon, do you have ideas on where people can get?
I don't know for sure, but I suspect that there are still some older models of new appliances out there. Grab them if you can. I know that we've been told by many people in California who have tried to get the Zigbee chip removed from a smart appliance that the company will not allow it. The company is saying this is part of the warranty, and if you remove a Zigbee chip from your smart appliance, your warranty is null and void. And apparently it's very, very difficult.
I wonder if the DC AC ones have chips in them, because you can get them where you can use them DC or AC. And
I can't answer that. I'm sorry.
Propane refrigerators, but thank you.
I think the used older ones probably the best bet.
I rent my house, and we have a stove oven that has a digital base. It's like an electric base, and then gas burners. And if the digital clock is activated, then we get a lot of dirty electricity right where the person who's standing in front of the stove is when cooking. So we keep the whole appliance plugged into a power strip, and we keep it off unless we're baking, which might happen for, an hour per week. So we use a striker to light the burners, and that's the oldest stove that we can. That's what we're using. Okay, let's take another question.
Okay, Kathy Dean. Hi, Kathy. You're unmuted.
Hi. Yeah, what I wanted to say is Home Power Magazine. You can search by keyword all the past issues for about 30 years by paying like a fee of $35, and then I think you can search for a year. And the current issue is always free, by the way, online. Home Power Magazine, they're out of Northern California. And also,
what are they providing? What is this?
They have all kinds of advertisers for people doing off-grid things, and they're the granddaddies of the movement. There's probably about 150,000 families at least nationwide that are living off-grid right now, and a lot of them.
Okay, thank you. And I just want to come in here, and you're bringing in a whole different thing about going off-grid, and I'm going to say we need a whole nother show about that.
Right.
So it's like how go ahead, Sharon, go ahead.
If I could just interject here, part of the problems that we're finding in British Columbia for people going off grid is that if you want to have a utility company as backup, in case, for instance, you don't have batteries that are sufficient to hold the charge during a cloudy period or rainy period or whatever, and you're on solar power, the utility company is forcing you to take a smart meter, even though analogs run backwards. They don't want to give you that benefit. They want to charge you a lower rate for the surplus energy that you're feeding into the grid. So they're forcing people to take smart meters if you go off the grid.
I just want to say this headline, and then I want to get off the topic because it really needs its own show. But in many cases, smart solar systems are being installed with no battery, and that means that the household is still tied to the grid. I can repeat that. You need a battery in order to store power for cloudy days and nighttime use, and most solar systems are being installed without a battery. So you really need to do research before you go on. Let's take one more question. Sandy, if you can give us one more question, and then I think we'll call it a day.
Okay. Allie in Washington, you're unmuted.
Well, thank you, Katie, very much. I so appreciate all the information you're giving, and I was not able to write down all of those websites that you gave. Is there any way you can make that available for all of us?
Yes. Why don't we say them once more, and then we'll make sure that Sandy has them and post them. So Sharon Noble's websites, Sharon has 3 websites. Stop Smart Meters BC, as in British Columbia, stopsmartmetersbc.com, and that's where she has her daily blog if you go to newsletter. Then Sharon also has Citizens, plural, Citizens for SafeTechnology.com, and the word for is
.org.
.org. Thank you. So it's Citizens for, that's F-O-R, SafeTechnology.org. And then you also gave a new site to me,
yes.
EMRABC.ca. That's EMRABC.ca. Go ahead, Sharon.
That has information where people can check about the types of meters they have. It has excellent pictures and descriptions of meters and collectors, for instance.
Great. And then you also recommend smartgridawareness.org and EMFsafetynetwork.org. Those are both based in the States. EMFsafetynetwork.org and smartgridawareness.org. And I just want to say, wow. I'll contribute another wow to all the information that you are walking around with and sharing. And Sharon and I will be back sometime toward the end of June with a show about Wi-Fi in schools. And thank you, Sandy, and thanks to Occupy. And I hope you guys have a great forum at the Left Forum at John Jay College this Sunday, starting at 10 a.m.
Thank you very much. We also have a table in the Great Hall, so we're going to have educational material there for Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So next week we'll have a lot of information to share. I have one other person who has a question. Can we quickly do that?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, Deborah, your hand is up. Did you have a question?
Well, I wanted to say that what I have found out in the last 2 weeks, what I have understood by a group that I'm in, that I found out that these advanced metering smart meters are installed only with the permission and through the permission of the city council where you are, or whoever is sitting in power that makes the different things happen within your cities, townships, villages, whatever. And I'm finding out that's the reason why people are having such a hard time going through their legislatures.
It varies very much. I'm not sure where you live, but in many places it is the state that makes that determination, or the province in the state of in the case of Canada. In California, for instance, PG&E, there was a moratorium where dozens of local areas said no, they did not want to have smart meters. They would not accept smart meters, yet they got smart meters. The same thing happened in British Columbia. Out of 85 local councils, we had 70 that said that they did not want smart meters. We had formal moratoriums that were sent to the province, yet they were ignored. This is happening. There may be areas where it's the city. There may be areas where it's the county. But in many instances, it's the state itself that makes this decision.
Let me clarify something here. Deborah, what I hear you are wanting, which is what a sane person would want, would be a regulatory agency that would say, hey, let's look and see if this proposed new technology is safe on all levels. Wait, hold on. What you're asking for is an agency that regulates the proposal, so a regulatory commission. And we have, in all countries, there are federal regulations and then there are municipal regulations. And, you know, what we're finding is that there are almost no regulations with smart meters.
Well, the reason that I'm finding out is I'm working with everybody in Michigan and Oklahoma, and they're all based upon electrical co-ops. So everywhere you go in Michigan, it's an electrical co-op that's done by its own little board within its community. But what I was going to tell you, too, is I had a win. I had a smart meter, which is an AMI cellular mesh network that Ms. Lamb is talking about, put on a house 25 yards from me, putting it into my home, and I can't have that per my traumatic brain injury doctors. I had a conversation with an installer, and I told him, you cannot assault me in my house. I was having burning legs and feet. And I told him, you're not going to assault me in my house. He said, let me check into this. And I got a letter from their lawyer for Texas New Mexico Power. I'm in Texas. And had a phone number at the right top corner of the letter, and I called it, left a message, and I said, I'm not going to see you in court with my lawyer. I'm going to see you in court with my doctors. And let's see if the judge comes to me or goes to you. And I said, because you're not going to assault me. Within 3 days, they took down the amount of data collection that they were pushing out on that meter, and I have not been assaulted in my home.
Thank you for the story.
That's excellent news. In many states, these things are optional. For instance, in California, people can pay to have the smart meters removed from their homes and analogs put back on. In other places, the option does not exist. In British Columbia, we're not allowed that option. And if you're living in a place where you can either pay to have it off, or if you can reason with people to have your home isolated from this, it's wonderful. But the sad thing is, Deborah, that even, if you're living close to neighbors, even if your smart meter is either turned off or you're not using it or they're putting an analog back on, you're still being assaulted by your neighbor's radiation, which is a sad thing, and also the radiation from the nearby collectors and cell towers that are going to be sending out signals. Also, if you have a smart meter with the transmitter turned off, you are still getting the dirty electricity on your home wiring, which is causing many people problems, and you're also having the fire hazard on your home. So really the only safe meter is an analog meter, and I suggest we all work to try to get analog meters put on our homes.
I'm going to say thank you and wow again, Sharon Noble, and I'll just say those websites once again. Sharon Noble sites are stopsmartmetersbc.com and citizensforsafetechnology.org. She also recommends emfsafetynetwork.org, smartgridawareness.org, and my website is electronicsilentspring.com, and I have a monthly newsletter. You can sign on to that if you go to sign up to my newsletter at electronicsilentspring.com. Thanks again to Sharon Noble and to Sandy Fields, and I hope everyone has a good day.
Okay, thank you also, Katie and Sharon Noble, and this was a great seminar, and we learned a lot, and we will see you at the Left Forum this weekend, and we will tell you all about it next week. Thank you all very much, and have a good day. Bye for now.